All right, open session call to order. It is exactly 6:30. Can you please join me as we do a moment of silence in honoring those that gave the ultimate sacrifice? Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much, Lord, for all that you give us, and thank you that we get to come together as a team, Lord, as Canyon Lake, to look over tonight's budgets, to talk about public safety throughout our community, to talk about the good work that you're doing throughout our county and our state, Lord. Let us be with all of us, and in your name, amen. Mr. Terry, will you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Councilmember Terry has been with us now about 5 months on the council, and he doesn't know what it's like to do that over Zoom when no one will say it with you. And it's very awkward, and those of you who know how awkward it is, so thank you for that. With that, we're going to go into roll call.
Councilmember Castillo?
Here.
Councilmember Dane?
Here.
Councilmember Terry?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Welty?
Here.
Mayor Smith?
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Awesome. Closed session report. Mr. City Attorney, you got anything for us?
Thank you, Mayor. The only item that I have to report out of closed session relates to item A, which is the real property negotiations for the fire department. As the council knows, we sent over the draft agreement at the end of February, and we received back the POA's legal comments at the beginning of April. Those comments were pretty extensive, so we've been going over them. We anticipate a response back later this week. I heard some comments that there was, I guess, a rumor that we were somehow delaying our legal response to the POA, and I just wanted to assure the council that that's not true. We've taken no longer to review those very extensive comments than the POA's own attorneys took to review the original document in the first place. We're moving forward diligently on it, and I hope that we will have a final document soon. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Mr. Terry, your chair is broken. Do you need a new one? Budget cuts. We can't do that. Approval of the city council agenda. Mr. City Manager, Mrs. City Manager, I got to get used to that. Is there anything that you'd like to change on the agenda?
I believe, or do you want to pull items 5 and 6?
That's going to be on the consent calendar.
Oh, sorry. No changes to the agenda. Thank you.
Perfect. I do need a motion. I do need a second.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Terry?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Perfect. Moving on to ceremonial matters. I'm going to ask the entire council to come forward. We're going to look at Citizen of the Month. So April, will you please come up? I know you're here. And then we're going to be looking at Student of the Month and Student of the Year. So the entire council, please join me up. April, you are awesome. I was told by Mayor Pro Tem Welty that you're known as, is it Singing April? But we know you do a lot more than sing for our community. You've been in the community now 10 years, and you've given so much of your time and energy doing all sorts of things. This was an easy one for us. It helped because we got to see you at the National Day of Prayer. And for those of you that didn't show, she did an incredible job, and we're so honored to have your voice in our community and constantly singing every time we ask. So thank you so much. So on behalf of the entire council, we want to say congratulations on becoming our Citizen of the Month. You're very welcome. Does anyone want to say anything? Good, we're going to do a photo. Good job.
I'm never used to it.
Congratulations.
All right, Jen, you're up. Nope, we're staying up here.
I have the honor of recognizing 3 of our Canyon Lake students, graduating seniors, for a couple different things. I am going to start with David Menendez. If you'd please come up. David was Student of the Month in April? In April. And with all three of our Students of the Month and Students of the Year, this was our first graduating class that had to deal with COVID. So came in with challenges from the beginning as freshmen. David is, I'm going to say a couple things and then give you the opportunity, but the day that David won Student of the Month, also found out that he was named valedictorian of Elsinore High School. He's graduating with a 4.59 GPA and going to UC Berkeley, and double major, electrical engineering and computer science. Did I miss anything? So congratulations, we have a certificate for you for Student of the Month, and another little gift.
Property tax exempt.
That's better.
So congratulations to David and his parents who are here. Do you want to say anything?
I couldn't do this without my parents. Yesterday was my mom's birthday, so happy birthday. Thank you.
Congratulations. You want to take a picture? Thank you. Congratulations.
Good job.
Okay, second, I'm going to bring up Faith McCloskey. Faith is graduating from Keith McCarty Academy and Mount San Jacinto, same time? So Faith was named one of the Students of the Year for Elsinore School District and from Canyon Lake. She will be graduating with both her high school diploma and her associate's degree at the same time. Planning on going to ASU. She's going to take your job, Stephen, by the time she's 22.
So I've got some time. Thank you.
You got a little time. But just so thrilled to have such great representation in our students, and so proud of you. So congratulations. Do you have anything you'd like to say?
I guess so. I really couldn't have done any of this without my family or, honestly, the Canyon Lake community, because my family's very big in the Canyon Lake community, so thank you all.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. One more picture. Is that a time limit on my
I think
on
that
me
was the
speaking?
time limit on you.
I never use all my time.
Congratulations.
Okay. And last but not least, we have Harrison Rowe. Harrison is graduating from Temescal Canyon, also Student of the Year. So we have a lot of great representation from Canyon Lake. Harrison is going to be going to Southern Utah University and majoring in
Engineering of Technology.
engineering technology. They're all really smart. So hopefully after this, you're all going to come back to Canyon Lake and give back to your cities. One of the remarkable things that in the Student of the Month presentations and the Student of the Year, which I'm so honored to be able to attend on behalf of the city, the teachers just gush about all of the students. And one of the teachers said that Harrison was the best student he'd had in 26 years. And that he was, I'll never forget this quote, that he was impeccably raised. So congratulations to Mom and Dad, and congratulations. That's for you, and that's for you.
Congratulations.
Awesome job. Way to go, students. Way to go, April. So my notes, April, weren't in my little certificate sheet, and now I have them. I want to say a couple acclimates towards her. April's been with us for 10 years in the community of Canyon Lake, part of the Mermaids Group, current member, former vice president, and public chair. She served on several committees, including afternoon tea, and also Witches Hunt and Casino Night. She's part of the Women's Club, current member. Whoop, whoop. Volunteering for the Women's Club as well, the fashion show. Obviously, she's been part of the city's 9/11 and the Veterans Day. So, well-deserved. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Our Citizen of the Month. Let's give the students and April one more round of applause. All right, moving on to community report. I got to go to my notes now because Darcy Burke is next, but she's at a convention, but she's given me a report, so I get to deliver the bad news about rates. So this is hers, not mine. No, Darcy's been good. She's been so transparent with us, telling us everything that's happening over at EVMWD. All right, from Darcy, as I have been sharing with the council staff and residents for the last few months, EVMWD rates are increasing 9.5% as of July 1st. I asked staff to show a typical monthly bill for Canyon Lake household of 4, and at a 9% looks like. I'll give you those numbers unless they have the example on the TV screen. If not, then I can give them to you. If you only have 2 people in your household, the total dollar amount would be less over the past year. Your chemical costs alone have gone up 300%. I think for those of you that own pools, know that just like chlorine alone has gone up, chemicals through the roof has just gone crazy. Energy costs have gone up 26%. We have been able to minimize the impact to our customers by taking money from our rate stabilizing fund, which is what it's designed for. However, obviously this is unsustainable. If you would like to discuss this further, she's always available, as you know, and that she is asking the board and our rate consultant to explore other rate structures that would lower the monthly overall bill. However, fixed costs would be on the property tax roll. We are expecting all options to keep water and wastewater services affordable. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And the example she gave, which I brought this up at our coffee with the mayor this morning, for a family of 4, if your bill was $176.88, that new amount would be $190.41. So you're looking at about a $13 increase in this particular scenario. So thank you, Darcy. I appreciate her being so responsive and sending this over to me so I can give her update. And like always, if you know Darcy like we do, she's very easy to get a hold of and is always trolling on all the social media sites. So we love her for that. All right, moving on, we have Canyon Lake Property Owners Association, update by President Renee. I do believe that she's not here tonight. Just wanted to make sure. It's okay, though, because your director, Bill Van Vliet from Israel, sent me one to give you an update, so don't worry. Let me find it here. All right, Bill says, the biggest news is obviously there's an election, and that election is happening, and tomorrow is the last day. Keep in mind, he's at a different time zone. So as of yesterday, we had 1,355 votes, 245 short of quorum. I think that number's increased since then. Residents can still bring in their ballots tomorrow. If we don't reach quorum 1,600, there will be a second attempt on Saturday, at which the tally is dropped to 1,200, which obviously quorum will be met by then. The next big news is the Fiesta Hopper on Saturday, May 27th. And lastly, at our last board meeting, we renewed the contract for the general managers. Details are available upon request. Other than that, he states, I'm out of the loop on a trip to the Holy Land and Greece. We'll be back before Fiesta Days. In the meantime, I continue to offer prayers to our amazing community. So that's from your director, Bill Van Vliet. Love technology. It makes it so much easier. So he was happy to give us a little report. All right, moving on to Chamber of Commerce. John Grande, it is yours.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, city staff, everybody else. Actually, I think everything I have to say here is good news. So, on the 18th of this month, was it this month? Yes, we always meet with Mark Terry in the city, and we're really making some strong progress in figuring out ways to support the businesses of Canyon Lake. Specifically a focus on the home businesses, which we don't seem to get enough support from us. On the 28th or the 29th of this month, we had our first annual Canyon Lake pub crawl. Yeah, hey. We had a lot of fun.
Very nice.
Everyone seemed to behave themselves and was in a good spirit. We had the opportunity to support 4 of our businesses here in the town center and expose that to people who've never been to some of these places. And on the 3rd of this month, we had our first monthly business roundtable event. We had a very good attendance, and we're looking forward to that growing. Our next event, our next roundtable is going to be on the 7th of June. It's going to be the first Wednesday of every month. So encourage chamber members to join. If you're not a chamber member but would like to attend, be delighted to have you as a guest. The Shop Local Committee, we had our first meeting also on the 3rd, and a result of that, which was Councilmember Terry, Chamber, and various business leaders in the community. We will be planning, well, it's actually more of a city event, but we're supporting the city in this, and our social media panel on the 21st, and that's going to be right here in this room in the evening. Yeah. And on the 18th of this month, an event that I will not be attending is going to be the first quarterly Women in Business event, and that's going to be held at the Canyon Cowboy at 5:30 p.m. on the 18th. And this is open to all women business owners, of course. And then we've made some developments in supporting home-based businesses. One of the challenges that these home-based businesses have had is ribbon cutting ceremonies, because many of them don't want to do it at their homes and that kind of thing. So the city has graciously agreed to let us use these chambers when available for ribbon cutting events for the home-based businesses. So we're really thrilled. It's going to take a couple weeks for us to kind of get those logistics all worked out, but we're very happy that we're moving in that direction. And last but not least, I am very excited to announce our business of the month. This is again, a Canyon Lake-based business that provides a very unique, but as we discovered, a vital business, as necessity is the mother of invention, Yard Fresh. Never in a million years thought this would be a business, but then again, as soon as I heard it was, I engaged with them myself. And so I'd like to congratulate Troy and Monica Lyons as April 2023 Business of the Month. I think that's everything.
Way to go.
All right, on. Any questions?
I'm glad that you started off by saying the pub crawl was a safe and good and
It was. Everyone was, there's a side of you that gets a little concerned. I didn't drink that day when I attended because I really wanted to have my focus on things, but everyone was having fun.
I got a
There was no
shotgun of you,
drama.
shotgun and a beer, so.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know. I
it.
don't
So maybe after this meeting.
Yeah.
So great. Thanks, everyone.
I got a question. Describe the Eurofresh experience. I'm interested in your business of the month.
Sure. So Yard Fresh, for lack of a better term, they go to people's homes and pick up dog poop. And, a lot of us, like myself, I do it daily. But if I'm traveling for a couple of weeks and I got quite a gift waiting for me when I get home. So in my case, I'd hire them to come while I'm out of town so I could come home to a nice clean yard. But, you can hire them weekly. They also have kind of, like scent and odor control kind of things. So, for those of us maybe elderly or people who are handicapped or just folks who are just really busy, because anyone who owns a dog knows if you don't stay on top of that, it can get away from you very quickly. And and it's very inexpensive. I think you're looking at less than, $15 a visit, that kind of thing. So
they don't charge by the poop.
No, they charge by the size of the dog and the
Okay.
number of dogs you have. So
it.
I know the Welties, for example, you have what, about 18 dogs?
Yeah, we're getting 2 more this week.
Yeah,
so-
see, there you go. So, I only have one, so they would charge more for you than for me, but yeah, absolutely.
Wow, you never know what you're going to learn in these council meetings. I'll tell you what.
That's right.
Can't wait to tell my wife.
Yeah, we're neighbors, so I kind of see them walking. You and your wife do lots of rounds of walking I'm like, see different dogs every 20 minutes, right?
Oh, he's
I'm
got a-
exaggerating, of course. So, great, thanks. Any other questions, folks?
Everyone else good? Thank
All
you
right.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the entertainment. All right, Public Safety, Sheriff's Department, Lieutenant Bill Edwards, you are up.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, staff. How you guys doing? I have your Canyon Lake Public Safety Report for April. We have responded to 337 calls for service, a decrease of 27. There were 7 Part 1 crimes, 3 aggravated assaults, 2 burglaries, 2 larcenies. We issued 2 traffic citations, investigated 13 traffic collisions. We had 4 arrests, 2 for domestic, 2 for warrants. We had 2, again, just going down the list here, 2 traffic cites, 13 TC reports. We had 4 total arrests. Priority 1 response times were 9.30, and priority 2 were 16.76. And that about wraps it up.
Any questions?
Anything good?
Are we really going to let them off that easy?
Well, my only comment is that we're coming into spring. We need to watch those parks, and we've talked about it before, and
Yep.
and watch those bicycles, if they're out there driving inappropriately. Let's see, or riding, I guess would be technically.
Absolutely. Yep, we'll stay on top of it.
Stay on top, yes.
Awesome.
I would say it's the best response times in the last 3 months, right?
Yeah, no, we've been doing pretty good. Yeah,
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. All right,
Any other questions? Are we good? Perfect.
awesome. Thank you.
No problem. All right, next, Fire Chief, you're up. Fine, never mind. We'll let Ruby go, Code Enforcement, which is actually Mike. Ruby's looking differently. Obviously, Chief wasn't quite ready.
He was, we just wanted to go in order. Same rules apply as last time, no questions.
Deal. Thank you, Ruby.
Okay, so I'm going to give the monthly report for code enforcement for the month of April. I know last month I gave the wrong monthly report. Let's just forget what happened.
Hence
Building
the
and
no
construction-
questions.
Yes.
Got it.
Building and construction violations, we had 5 unpermitted construction NOVs. Regulations on BLM lands, we had 3 citations that were issued. 25 motorized vehicles on BLM were reported. Verbal warnings were all given. There was 1 fresh fire pit found that enforcement had to put out, which is very important as to why we actually enforce out there, is the last thing we want is some form of fire working its way into our community. Abandoned vehicles abatements, we had 1 notice of violation that was issued. Short-term rentals, we had 1 short-term rental found in the month of April. Notice was issued, followed by citation for non-compliance. Business license, we had 23 new business license registrations, 3 business license renewals. And then for the residential rental registrations, 317 total rental registrations, 280 current and active business licenses, 37 pending renewals, 4 residential inspections conducted for the month of April, and 24 pending inspections. That's all I have. Questions? None?
You
Perfect.
asked it. We're not allowed. Any questions? We gonna let them off? We good? You got lucky tonight,
Okay.
man.
Whew. I'll have Ruby up here next month.
Thank you. Thanks for covering for Ruby tonight. Appreciate it. Chief, you good now? Floor is yours.
I'm sorry, I was confused. I'm normally last, so I had to call in some reinforcements for me.
I see that. I see that.
Good evening, Jeff Latenders, your fire chief, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. I'm here to present our monthly report for April. So for the month of April, it was another slow month for us. We had 76 emergency responses. Of those emergency responses, 2 of them were fire calls. 59 of them were medical in nature. 2 were hazardous conditions. 7 were goodwill or good intent calls. 4 were false alarms. And then 2 were special incident type. So our fire responses, our first one was on April 27th in Canyon Lake in the 23,000 block of Skylink. It was located in a storage shed. It was an electrical extension cord, as you can see there from the picture. There was about $500 in damage. But, you know, as we start our fire inspection program in the business community, this is one reason why we're looking for extension cords and how people make them look like octopuses, is they do start fires. Our second structure fire was April 28th in the 21,000 block of Appaloosa. Again, it was another electrical extension cord, and the house was charged with smoke when we got there. It took a while to try to figure out what the cause of this fire was, and it was a hidden surge protector. And we think surge protectors are normally the ones that we would use for electrical devices. This one failed, and fortunately, it was a retired firefighter called 911, and he actually is the one that was able to locate the source of the smoke inside the house. So again, about $500 in damage. Incidents by time of day, we're really not seeing any change. It's fairly consistent until about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning is when the call volume starts to spike. We see it really spike in the early evening hours in the afternoon. Again, we use this information so we can plan our training activities and try to ensure that we're doing activities that don't delay our responses normally when we're at a busier time of the day. Our response times, it was one of our best months for response times. On our average, our turnout time was 58 seconds. Our travel time was 5 minutes and 3 seconds. And our total response time on average was 5 minutes and 54 seconds. When we look at it 90% of the time, or our fractile response times, our turnout time was 1 minute 26 seconds. Our department goal is 1 minute 45 seconds, so we met our goal for that. Our travel time was 7 minutes 18 seconds. Again, we have no control over that. It's where we are and where the incident is. We try to reach all places in the city within 6 minutes. So our overall response time was 8 minutes and 5 seconds. So again, a pretty good month for us. We're still keeping an eye on it. We continue to provide information weekly to our captains on how they're doing and how they're performing, and encourage them to do all they can to put themselves in a position so that they're ready for that next response. This is where all of our incidents occurred during the month of April, so there's really no central location where they were. They're kind of scattered all throughout the community. When we look at our responses from automatic aid into the city, we'll see where that normally occurs a lot more often than others. On our automatic and mutual aid during the month of April, we responded to 18 incidents outside the city. There were 12 in Lake Elsinore. There was 1 in Menifee, 3 in Good Hope. We did have 1 incident that we responded to while our guys were covering the services for Captain Tim Strack of the Riverside City Fire Department in the city of Riverside. And while we were staffing March Air Reserve Base during the air show, we had 1 incident there as well. So far this year, we've had 31 outside the city incidents in Lake Elsinore, 7 in Menifee, 1 in Paris, 4 in Good Hope, and then the 2 we just talked about in Riverside City and at March Reserve Base. This is a detailed map showing where those outside the city incidents are. Again, if you note how far north we've gone up into the Paris area or almost into Good Hope out of that area, some of our responses are fairly long in duration. CAL FIRE, on the other hand, has responded in the city of Canyon Lake 5 times during the month of April, not March, sorry about that. And so far this year, Riverside County CAL FIRE has responded 27 times into the city. So far, we're going outside the city almost twice as much as they're coming inside the city. And this is a detailed map, again, of where CAL FIRE has responded to inside the city. And again, you can notice the cluster of calls there, especially the red spot. That's multiple calls in the same area along Railroad Canyon Road. So we go to that area a lot and rely on them. Our training hours for the month of April, A shift had 25 hours, B shift had 27 hours, and C shift had 35 hours. This month, we focused on New Firefighter Academy, 80 hours. I'd like to introduce our new firefighter who's here tonight, firefighter paramedic John Sassy, who's been with us about a month now. So John, welcome. Our monthly reserve training focused on EMS skills, All of our company officers and chief officers went to countywide wildland training at Ben Clark Training Center. We're also doing our own department-wide wildland training. And one of our paramedic engineers here, Matt Green, we sent to rope rescue class, and he's now going to be our instructor for the entire department with our rope rescue program that we're getting ready to implement that. And that's one of our goals as part of the budget process. Public education, we did the March Air Show, we did station coverage in Riverside. Our firefighters, our fire association was out there at the junior women's golf tournament. Our score was not one that got us a medal, but it was still a lot of fun out there. We taught at the Emergency Preparedness Committee. It was National Dispatchers Week, so we went out to Riverside County Dispatch Center in Paris, and we treated all the dispatchers to a barbecue dinner from Lucille's. So they were very grateful, and then just our daily interaction with the community. We would like to plug one last time, this coming Saturday, the 13th, from 10 to 2, we're having our first annual open house as part of Fire Services Week. It will be at the fire station. We're going to have the Riverside County Sheriff there, AMR Ambulance, our Disaster Preparedness Committee. The Lions Club will be introducing a new program that we're really excited about. There'll be face painting, there'll be a balloon artist, and then there'll be some live fire demonstrations by our firefighters. So finally, if you get hungry, the Clams are going to be providing their famous brats. So come on down, and we hope to see you there. And so that's our rig outside of Riverside City Station 2, where they covered. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions? Yep.
Thank you, and nice to meet you, to our new member of the fire department. I think it's really cool that there's a bunch of different community organizations that are coming to participate in our open house.
They're part of how we provide service, so we want to include them in our open house.
That's great. Thank you.
Perfect. Any other questions? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. All right, public comments.
Mayor, we have 2 public comments tonight. Our first is from Melanie Schatzer.
Thank you for joining us tonight.
I'm grateful to be here. Mayor Smith and Mayor Pro Tem Welty, City Council members, and City staff members. My name is Melanie Schatzer, and I'm here to thank you for your support in our Crystal Apple event. You happen to have the same night as Wildemar City Council now that you've changed your nights.
It's our city attorney's fault.
Yeah. That's okay. So I'm a little bit later than normal getting back with you, but we just wanted to tell you that we are very appreciative of the beautiful certificates that you provided, and also how well represented you were with Councilmember Mark Terry and City Manager Nicole Daly. We really appreciate that, and we're so appreciative of this amazing support and hope that you will continue to support us next year, as this is an annual event in March. So our Crystal Apple event is when students from our church nominate a teacher from the local Lake Elsinore Unified School District for someone that's had an impact on their life. And then these students present, they do the whole evening, and then they present these crystal apples to their teacher. And for those that were there, you can tell how genuine these students really appreciate their teachers. And this is a chance for us to say thank you to the teachers that put in so much work, and for the students to say thank you to the teachers. And as a teacher in the school district, we know that when the kids say thank you, you really know that it's for real. So we are very appreciative of that. And also, I wanted to inform you. I know Nicole Daly quite well. I have been the communication director for our church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, for the last 7 years. But it's a voluntary position, and I now am no longer in that position. I brought my new replacement, is Susan Lovett, and she will be able to be your liaison. From now on, I am retiring from the school district this year, and I have
Congratulations.
5 kids in 5 states with 19 grandkids that I'd love to go visit. So I'm looking forward to my new phase of life, and but just to let you know that as a church, we're here to help in any way that we can. We help in service or anything that we can have, and we have members from our church in Canyon Lake, Wildemar, and Lake Elsinore. So we can recruit those to help in Canyon Lake as well. So we're just here to serve in any way that we can, but especially tonight to say thank you. All
Thank
right.
you. Appreciate you. Thank you. Sounds like you're going to be busier than your retirement.
Mayor, our next speaker is Jeanette Vanderpool.
Perfect. Our school board trustee, Lake Elsinore Unified School District, is in the house.
Hi, everybody. Hello, formal. Hello, Mayor. Hello, Mayor Pro Tem. Hello, City Council. So thank you so much for recognizing our Canyon Lake students. Faith, who happens to live 2 doors down from me, so love her, my favorite neighbor. I'm so proud of you going to Southern Utah. Beautiful university. We're just there. And the amazing parents. And what you said your GPA was 5.9? Okay. That's what I was wondering. I was like, I didn't think we could get that high, but if anybody could, it'd be you. I would believe it. But I'm also very proud of our first ever Canyon Lake and Lake Elsinore Unified Ad Hoc that we've been able to form with Councilmember Castillo and Councilmember Dane, along with myself representing the school district, as well as Board President Juan Salcedo. And I just cannot wait to see what we're going to be able to do for the kids in our community of Canyon Lake, as well as the surrounding areas of Canyon Hills and Tuscany Hills, because I do serve them as well. But there is just going to be great things in the future for safety, education, fun, because we can't do it by ourselves. We need the community, and we need parents, like all the parents that are in here, to just keep it going and make sure that Canyon Lake kids are just well-rounded and happy and safe, and I thank you for that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, we have no more speakers.
Perfect. Thank you, Jeanette, for showing up tonight. Thank you for being at the National Day of Prayer, too. We really appreciate you and bringing your colleagues. All right, moving on. Consent calendar. Anyone want to pull any items besides the 2 that I'm going to pull? Going once? Going twice. Okay, I am going to pull item number 5, and I'm going to pull item number 6. So I do need a motion to move forward with items 1 through 4.
Motion. Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Terry?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Perfect. Looking at pulled consent items, we have 2, 5, and 6. Number 5, this is approval and agreement with IGM Technology for cloud-based budget software platform. Terry, you in the house? You want to talk a little bit about it? Good.
I got to get a laptop or something, so this phone stuff, getting too old for the phone. Your Honorable Mayor, Member of City Council, currently the city uses an Excel workbook that I have, and only one person can get involved with it. So we decided that we would look for cloud-based software, and I found 3 vendors at a conference I went to last year. We did some interviews, we reviewed their platforms, and we're picking this one because it has the whole package. It goes from building the budget to reporting. The one that's a little bit cheaper has to use the one that's more expensive to do the reporting. And so this makes, hire the different companies to do different things.
Yeah.
But it allows us to, we'll have a beautiful budget book next year developed through this program. It allows multiple users. Each department can build their own budget, can have prior years in there, and can upload their own source documents so they always know where they're at. At the end of each month, we'll upload the software, our general ledger software, so they will be able to track real time a little quicker and a little easier for them, and they can develop their own reports. So it's a long time coming, and
Awesome.
it shouldn't just be me with one Excel worksheet. So.
Absolutely.
But now we're excited to get started. So,
Does anyone have any questions on this? I pulled this item because, first of all, anytime we spend money, we should talk about it.
Yes, sir.
And I think this is incredible because we've been working hard to put the city in the 21st century, and this is the technology that we needed. So thank you for bringing this and doing the research and finding out what's best for us. So I really appreciate it, seriously.
Definitely.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd say it was great. This is a cost of $20,000 a year. Our staff works hard. They're we're wearing a lot of hats. Sometimes that gets to be a little demanding. We look at the $20,000 a year and the cost savings and the burden off one or two individuals in the city sounds terrific. Because now that each individual group can do a better job of managing their own budget, it doesn't fall on one person. I'm sure the city manager will appreciate being able to hit a button and seeing everything in one picture. So I think this is great.
And they'll have multiple years of history once it, gets loaded in there. And then the big thing I like is the source documents. So if we get like our thing from the Financing Authority and the stuff from, can't think of anything, but all the backup that we get from the sheriffs, from all the different entities, it's all uploaded in one document. Each person can log in, they'll have their own login, they can make their own changes, and it's locked. They can't go in and change it later. So.
And we can pull the data from the software as
Yeah.
well, so it's always
Yes.
ours. I love
Yeah.
it. That's
and
the
we're
big
usually
thing.
closed by the third or fourth day of the month, so
Right.
we'll have that updated pretty quickly. So.
Perfect.
Yeah, I went through this transition in where I worked, and it was absolutely incredible for everyone involved. If I wanted something, there was no file bank. It was just click on a button. Last 8 years of my life, I didn't have a printer because I didn't need one, because everything was scanned and put into a system, and you didn't have to go run around the office and figure out where that piece of paper was. Incredible time saving, incredibly efficient. So thank God for this.
I was going to say, I thought you didn't need a printer because you're busy walking 15 dogs, as Mr. Grande indicated. Any other questions, comments, concerns, issues? If not, I need a motion in order to play ball.
I'll motion.
I need a second. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Terry?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Item number 6, this is the award of agreement of Color New Co. for the Railroad Canyon Road Painting Improvement Project. Is it going to be Ruby? Is it going to be Mike?
It's going to be Mike.
Okay. Are we allowed to ask questions, Mike?
Yes, on this one you can.
Oh, thank you. You're fully prepared.
Okay, yes.
Tell us some good stuff, Mike.
So in April of this year, we put a bid out for the Railroad Canyon Road Improvement Project, which consists of repairing and painting all the city boundary walls, both north and south side, painting all the traffic signals and light poles, and then also painting some of the utility boxes that belong to Southern California Edison and some of the bollards. EVMWD has already kind of assisted a little bit in this project already. They've actually taken care of their utility boxes that are out there. Eastern Municipal is going to be doing the same thing too, probably during the same time that the project begins, with lane closures and that sort of thing. It's going to make it easier for them to do that. So in April, we received 3 bids, and you have those bids in front of you. Color New Co. has been selected as the one to be awarded for this project. Initially, this project was anticipated to be estimated around $450,000, but as you can see, as the bid for $340,000, it's way under, which is good because there's also some contingency costs for construction and some additional costs for project managing too, which Interwest is going to be doing. In total, if you include everything, it comes out to a little bit over about $401,200, roughly around there. So it's well below the $450,000 amount that we initially anticipated. So we're seeking for council's approval to award the bid to Color New Co.
I noticed that one of the bids was over $1 million. Were they planning on using helicopters to paint everything? Or?
No clue really. I'll be honest, I didn't really look at the bid to see what exactly it was that they put in for.
You just turned away on that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, almost immediately when I saw it.
Yeah, I figured as much.
And can I ask, what funding is this coming from?
So this was pretty much gas tax money will cover all this entire project. So this will not affect the general fund whatsoever. Keep in mind too, there are several projects that are kind of going on Railroad Canyon Road right now, as you know. We recently got awarded that 1.3 million for that HSIP grant. That's going to be covering road safety improvements for Railroad Canyon Road. So that's different from this. You may also notice some work that's being done out there right now in the center medium. We're changing a lot of our landscape out, a lot of dead plants. A lot of the lighting is being taken out and being redone too as well. It's not moving as quick as we wanted to just because of weather. You know, when you mess with electrical and water, it just doesn't work. So we have to put things out a little bit, but that's a whole other project in itself too as well. So we almost have like 3 projects kind of going all simultaneously here at the same time. HSIP hasn't really started yet. We're going to be coming back to council for some approvals next month on that. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it.
And the timing's been good on this. I get the pleasure of serving on RTA, and I know Mike has been working with staff over at RTA. And last board meeting, we just authorized the approval to replace the new the 2 bus stops here in Canyon Lake to match the same paint theme that we're doing here, which is going to be very beneficial because that's no cost to the city at all. They're going to demolish them completely and give us brand new stops. So it'll look really modern and clean. So
And that's where the color theme came for the traffic lights and or the traffic signals and the light poles.
which
too.
is black, right? Is that
Correct.
what is being?
Yeah.
Because that's what color the bus stops are.
Yeah, and
So it's
then
gonna
the
be-
traffic signal heads too, they'll have that reflective yellow tape that you see kind of around today. That's sort of the standard. It's not yellow, it's sort of a different color, but that's also going to be part of it too as well.
Perfect. Does this include the golf cart bridge that you're building for us?
It does not.
Mike? Oh, okay.
No.
Darn it. Yeah.
That one will be done in about 20 years from
Okay.
now,
Give or take?
give or take.
Give or take.
Oh, I won't be here at that time.
Fair enough.
I'll be
I'm
retired.
sorry. Retirement, right? Okay, any other questions on this project? I pulled it because I'm excited. We've been working on this for what, 8 months, Mike?
Yeah.
Finally, and we've come to this. I know this is something that needed to happen. And the good news is it's not coming out of the general fund. This is being paid for, like Councilwoman Castillo noted, out of our gas tax, and then RTA is coming in as well. And we've been working hard to receive grant money.
And many thanks to Interwest too as well. They're here actually too tonight.
Oh, good.
So they're really big on helping with all our improvements that we're doing out there. They were very instrumental in the grant we received.
Absolutely.
From HSIP, so a lot of credits to them too.
Huge shout out to Interwest. We appreciate the partnership. Okay, I do need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Motion from Councilwoman Casey Castillo, second from Mark Terry. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Terry?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Absolutely.
Motion
Aye.
passes.
Good deal. All right, no public hearing. Business item number 7. Here we go. This is the big one. Business item. This is a presentation to discuss the draft budget for 2023-24. Presentation by staff. Who's going to go first? All right, our new city manager. Take us away. Tell us why we have half of a cup of gummy bears and not a full cup. Budget cuts.
I did notice those gummy bears. Good evening, Mayor Smith and members of the City Council, as well as the community. It's great to have so many in the audience tonight. I want to take a moment as I jump into this budget workshop to first thank our staff for their patience and assistance in developing the budget this year. As most of you know, I'm only a couple of months in, and so a lot of whys and trying to really discover where the money is and where it's going and what for. So I just want to thank council and staff for their assistance in this year's budget in answering a lot of those questions. Okay, so Corey, I think, has a PowerPoint. Is this? There it is. That's the right cover slide. Thank you, Corey. So the item before you is our fiscal year 2023-2024 budget. For clarity, I just want to assure the council this is your opportunity to tell us on staff if there are changes you'd like to see, programs we missed, any questions you may have. This will then come back to you next month for formal adoption, so there's still time for change. Our finance director, Terry Shea, is also here, and he will be presenting portion of this PowerPoint as well with me tonight, so we'll have to take a moment to go back and forth on this. I think it's very important for us to take a moment to look at the vision of the city of Canyon Lake. This has been around for some time. Currently, this is been how we on staff make decisions, right? So the vision really should set the tone for our decision-making from both the council side as well as the staff side. And as you can see on the screen, the vision of the city of Canyon Lake is to be a city that provides a quality of life that makes Canyon Lake the premier place to live in Southern California. Next, in January of this year, the city council did adopt their own goals. So this is just a frame of reference for everyone to see what the council said their priorities were for this calendar year. Every year this is done in January, and each of these goals were taken into consideration when we were working on the budget for this fiscal year. I won't go through all of them, but I just wanted to make sure to remind the community as well as the council that staff did consider each of these. More importantly, as we all know, the economy went through several years of an upswing. Unfortunately, though, all signs are pointing that things are going to change in the next few years. In fact, I went to the Legislative Analyst's Office website for the state of California. They do an economic outlook every year. And in their report this year, they stated the chances that the Federal Reserve can tame inflation without inducing a recession are narrow. Reflecting the threat of a recession, the state's revenue estimates represent the weakest performance the state has experienced since the Great Depression. Recession, sorry, wrong word, but important word. I apologize. Hard to read on the computer. Better than a phone, though, for Terry. So this is just to set the tone for the council and the community. It's very important for us on the staff level that we recognize when the economy is starting to shift, particularly here in Canyon Lake, because a lot of our revenue sources are driven by property values and assessments. So when the economy starts to shift, this does directly relate and affect to the revenues coming to the city. So some key points here. In March of this year, the CPI index, which measures the cost of living, went up 5%. This was after an 8% increase last year, okay? So when we looked at this year's budget, the city also has experienced significant increases in various costs to the city because of that change in the CPI index, as you would expect to see, and we all are seeing, right, in our day-to-day spending. The Federal Reserve has now raised the interest rate 10 times since March of last year, up to 5.25%. And while a lot of people are saying that interest rate is not likely to increase much more from here, that's yet to be seen or known. Right? So you hear all kinds of reports. We really don't know where that rate's going to go. And I've shown here a graph that was taken from the Press Enterprise that shows you when the recessions have occurred, when this interest rate hikes occur. So those gray bars show you that anytime the economy has had this type of shift where the interest rates rise, it's followed by a recession. In California, this is according to the Legislative Analyst's Office, home sales have dropped by 1/3. Car sales are at their lowest level in a decade, and stock prices are down 20% from their recent highs. Again, all critical factors to consider. Unemployment is now expected to increase due to the tightening of the monetary policies. And regionally, here in our area, Southwest Riverside County, median house prices are down 5%. In fact, in Canyon Lake last month, they declined 12%, according to the Southwest Realtors Group. And our housing sales overall for the entire region of Southwest are down 42% in the last year. And then locally, we are seeing this in our sales tax receipts, which were down 18.4% in the fourth quarter of last year. If we look at the city itself, we also have some challenges that are facing us in the coming year or few years that we must note for the community as well as the city council, and again, taken into consideration when we were building this year's budget. The first one is that, as we know, at least on staff side, there are significant legal challenges to several of our special revenue sources that we're currently working on in City Hall with the support of our wonderful attorney. The utility user tax as well as the emergency medical services program. Potential impacts to these funding sources would ultimately affect our ability to have the revenues to cover costs. Also, we're currently looking at our future costs for fire protection as well, law enforcement. These are areas of typically extensive increases year over year. Obviously, with our own fire department, that's given us a lot more control and ability to manage those costs on the fire side. We still have law enforcement that does swing and shift. Not as much here in this small community that we have because we don't have as much of a need as a lot of other communities. And then currently, we're in the process of looking at the purchase and finance of Fire Station Number 1. This was not included in this year's budget, as we do not currently know how we're going to pay for that fire station. That has not yet been determined. So this will be corrected in the mid-year based on whatever direction we end up going in terms of funding that purchase. Also, we have some long-term obligations that must be taken into consideration in the next year, including saving for equipment costs down the road, other post-employment benefit costs, as well as some lingering loans we have for city facilities that we need to look at refinancing and making sure those are stable and we're being prudent in managing those costs. We have another area of positive impact to our budget that you will notice is absent in your budget as well. That is our community benefit revenues that are generated by Culture Cannabis, which is expected to open this year. Unfortunately, those funds have yet to be seen by the city, so it is staff's recommendation that we exclude those from the budget because we aren't certain of exactly when that business will open and if those funds will come in. So it's very important that we on staff take a very conservative view based on the current economic conditions, and so we've excluded those revenues, but as soon as those funds start to come in, and in the mid-year, we would adjust appropriately. I also want to note on these revenues, we are well aware that we want to make sure we use those funds towards less permanent costs, again, for the same reason that it could be a volatile funding source for the first few years. So overall, I think each of these points highlights some very significant lessons for us as we look at the next few years in terms of ensuring that we have locally controlled funding and that we're taking a critical approach to keeping our taxpayer dollars local, and obviously that we're taking a more conservative look at our budget, trying to maintain costs or keep them lower wherever possible. And now, Finance Director Shea, thank you.
Good evening. Yeah, so the proposed general fund revenues are $7,569,000, which is an increase of about $329,000 over the previous fiscal year budget of $7,241,000. As like the city manager indicated, the community benefit revenues are not included in there yet. Proposed general fund expenditures are $7,533,000, which is an increase of about $693,000 over the previous fiscal year budget amount of $6,840,000. So the proposed budget reflects general fund revenues over expenditures of about $36,257. So here's a list of our main revenues. Our biggest ones are property taxes, fire, the BLF swap. Sales tax, we've always hovered around the 420 to the 380, and it's our sales tax consultant says it's going to be down a little this year. That's why we lowered it. Our utility users tax, our franchise fees, which is Edison, CR&R, trash, SoCal Gas, which is very small, and then other taxes. The majority of that other tax is our property transfer tax, which is down quite a bit because property sales have dropped. Fees for services, and then other revenues. And so you can see the prior year, $7,241,000. The other revenues this year, $7,569,000. Property taxes went up like 4%, which I think is conservative unless we hit a recession. Property tax fire, which is basically it's based on the assessed value of the city's property. It's slightly higher rate than the property taxes that we get, and that's been in place since we were incorporated. There's only like a few cities in Riverside County that get that fire structure fee. The VLF swap, back in the city's largest revenue source in the old days was motor vehicle license fees. And in the 90s, they lowered them. Remember when you paid your car, go down, down, down. So in 2004, when we hit another recession, the governor's office did this, what they call the VLF swap, where they transfer, it's basically a property tax, and they guaranteed us a certain amount, each city, a certain amount each year. The 4 new cities in Riverside County had theirs cut, but now they've got it back. So basically, that comes in the form of property taxes, and it's a guaranteed revenue source per the state constitution. And then sales tax is based on what we get, and everybody knows what the utility users tax is. We've seen quite an increase this year due to increase in electric costs, so I pay my Edison bill, it's like crazy. So here's in the fire, so you can see the largest chunks are the VLF, the fire structure fee, property taxes, utility users tax. Getting the UUT a few years ago really kind of helped put the city where it's at now, and then the EMS, which the EMS is in with the user fees, so that's where that is.
Got it.
Any questions on any of the revenues? And then this is the other fund. So the general fund is our main operating fund where 90% of our stuff happens. So the gas tax, when you go to buy gas, you pay your taxes. That's what this comes for. And it's based on population of the city, not where you buy your gas. So it's a population-driven thing. Measure A is that quarter cent sales tax in Riverside County for roads. So gas tax Measure A can only be used on roads, landscaping, improvements, public safety items for the roads. The AQMD is when you buy a car, you pay a certain fee, and that comes to us, and that's heavily restricted. We spent the majority of our money a year ago when we bought the 2 fire vehicles. And so we usually save that for about 5 years and then buy stuff for our fleet. That's what we do with that. There's not a lot, you only get like 15,000 a year, so you have to save it a few years. So the law enforcement grant, that's a guaranteed grant every year, and it goes up based on inflation. And so what we use it used to be somewhat restricted, but now part of the governor's swap thing, you're just guaranteed this money, and it can be used for your law enforcement. So what we do is we use this to offset the general fund part of the sheriff's contract. So. And then the miscellaneous, that's where the ARPA money is, and the city manager had talked about that earlier. And with the federal government talking about clawing some of that back, we may want to revisit what we spend that on and for that. And then the rental fund, that's the 1 building, the 2 buildings that we own there. So, any questions on the funds?
Any questions? No good.
So then here is based on personnel, O&M, and capital for a total. So for the general government, it's the city council, the city attorney, city manager, city clerk, finance, and public works, building and facilities. We're going to change the name of that next year to general, what did we say? I forget. But it'll be a different department, same thing, but a different department, more encompassing. So you can see that our largest cost, obviously, or one of our largest costs is employees, personnel costs. Then we have developmental services, which is planning, building, public works, NPDES, and code enforcement. And I think we're going to move code enforcement to public safety. And so it makes more sense to be down there. And so we have personnel costs there as well. And then we have public safety, which is contract, Riverside Sheriff's, our own city fire department, emergency preparedness, animal control. And so you can see our total personnel costs are $3 million. O&M 4.4 million, and our capital 25,000. We're going to have a separate capital improvement budget we're going to present at the June council meeting with projects structured over a 5-year time period. So you'll see what we're going to try to do over the next 5 years. So, any questions on the different departments?
I do. Yep. In the finance department, are we going to 2 full-time positions only, or is it 2 full-time and 1 part-time?
2 full-time.
Okay.
Last year's budget had part-time accounting tech. And then
And a
after I
full-time?
did Kayla's job for about a week, we decided we needed 2 people in there.
Okay.
So it was not pretty, so.
Okay.
All right, so it'd be, last year's budget included 1 full-time, 1 part-time, not even a full part-time, just part-time. And this
Okay.
year's budget has 2 full-time, and we changed the position, upgraded it a little to a little higher salary.
Okay. All right. That explains the
Yeah.
increase.
And then here's public safety, which is typical for a city. You're usually anywhere from 50 to 75% for public safety. Any questions on the breakdown? and then this is.
Okay, so something new this year is I wanted to take a moment to really highlight some of the goals of each of our departments, particularly if there was a change in funding request, maybe a new expenditure, an increased expenditure. So I'll go through these very quickly, but please stop me if you have any questions along the way, or I can pause for questions as well, or we can take them at the end. First, City Council, again, I framed these obviously not from the first to 10 initial ones because these are more objectives based on the budget and looking at where we made some changes. So as was brought up earlier by our chamber president, the city has taken a much more active role in trying to support our small businesses. So we did increase some funding toward the Canyon Lake Chamber of Commerce, as well as a new business, small business related event that we're calling Small Business Saturday. The details of this have yet to be worked out, but we wanted to make sure we put funding aside to be able to host some type of event that would assist our small business community. We're going to be looking at expanding and adding other new community events. So what we have done is created a new category for city events, so it's more clear where we're spending the funds and what they're being spent on. Some funding additions included National Night Out. This year, the city is responsible or projected to host that event. We will be working with law enforcement team to figure out how we do so, and or if we just support but host somewhere, maybe with a larger park, 'cause we haven't determined that yet. I do want to mention that we neglected to include the junior lifeguard program, so that is a change that staff will propose for $7,500. And that is to assist with transportation to this very successful program in our community, which is coming up this summer for anyone with young teenagers who might want to get involved. And then investing in community engagement. So we've increased some funding toward video editing services. As we all know, videos have become a much more popular way of communicating. They do take significant amount of time for staff. We were able to negotiate a very favorable agreement with a local vendor right here in the town center who's going to assist us with some video editing services and allow us to do a little bit more, again, for our small businesses by highlighting a business every month in a video. And then lastly, we're going to look to host a strategic planning, visioning type workshop sometime this summer, likely August, with the city council and the community if interested, to really start looking at some of our goals moving forward into the future. Our city attorney. Here you will notice two new categories that directly relate to the items on the screen. This hasn't been done in the past, but it is important. We've added a category for litigation because inevitably we are always facing litigation.
We are currently in litigation.
And so we've set aside actual funding in the budget. So you'll see a sharper increase in that category in this department budget, but this is because we've been spending the money, it just hasn't been shown on paper in the past. As well as we've increased the budget using a code enforcement category. This is to go towards code cases that we're currently still working on or those that come in. And I just want to make sure it's clear here, these costs can be recovered. So our city attorney is always doing everything they can to recover those costs back into the budget. So we did reflect that in our revenue sources as well. And finally, there are many municipal codes out there that we look to be able to update in the coming year, and also trying to get better on a staff level about using city agreements that have been vetted by our attorney, a template that ensures we're consistent across all of our contracts, especially as a contract city. This is an important change that can help us be more consistent from department to department, project to project. And I just want to highlight here again that our city attorney has created a much better structure for us with a monthly retainer, which was approved by the city council earlier this year. So that's been reflected as well. For the city manager's department, something new this year that we've included is to conduct a community satisfaction survey. So I don't think this has been done in a while with an actual public opinion polling firm, a valid and reliable survey. they would say, and I think this will be a great way for us, again, to look at what is it that the community wants from the city? Where are the gaps in services? What are we doing well, right? Where would we like to see improvement? And I think these tend to give us on staff a great starting point for ideas, as well as city council. And more importantly, it justifies any decisions we make as we move forward. I'll also be looking at long-term public safety costs, services, et cetera, to make sure, again, we're planning for the future here in the city of Canyon Lake. Refining some of our community programs and services, particularly looking at technology and ways to create easier, simpler, more accessible processes for the community, the residents, the businesses, those that do business with us on a daily basis. And then looking at our short and long-term revenue sources, again, continuing in the efforts of the City Council. A lot of great changes have been made in the last several years to ensure the financial stability of the city. And now we need to take it to the next level in terms of really looking at the future and being prepared several years ahead. And to me, staff training and development is extremely important. I think it's something that staff hasn't taken the opportunity to do, but it can be a great way to inspire, educate, and grow your staff. I tell the staff all the time, my legacy here in the city of Canyon Lake won't be what I do for the community, it will be what I do for you as government employees as you continue on in your careers, because they're the people behind the scenes that are making a difference. So this will be a priority for us in the coming year as well. For our city clerk, we're jumping right in this department, and these goals are very important, again, to better serving the community itself. We will be launching this year a public platform for vital records. We took the first step in that today, and we signed an agreement to extend Laserfish so that we'll have a public portal. So we'll start with very small baby steps in terms of resolutions and ordinances. This is helpful because it will allow the community to be able to search and find records on their own without having to contact the city. So it's going to take some time to get them all there, but this is a very important one for us in terms of being transparent and allowing access to our community. In addition, we've already started to go through the boxes of paper and destructing them appropriately. So cities are required to retain certain records. We're required to make those available. Many of them are still in paper and boxes, and then there's a certain number of years you're supposed to keep them. So we're trying to clear that out, and again, all in an effort to make sure we're all in compliance with the rules that really stand behind a city clerk's department, but more importantly, the city. And then risk management. There's a lot of programs and services that are offered through this expensive pooled insurance fund for us. We want to make sure we take full advantage of those opportunities for the city. And then we will be looking at council chamber renovations as part of ARPA funding, and so the city clerk's office will be taking the lead on that. Finance and Human Resources. Part of ensuring our long-term financial stability is establishing a fund balance policy. So this will come to the City Council next month with the formal approval of the budget. And what this will do is we'll outline how much we want to have in reserves, how we're going to fund those reserves, and really outline the policy for that to ensure that we're always putting aside the money for the rainy day. This can be important when you look at equipment. For example, a fire engine can only last so long. At some point, it will need to be replaced, and so these reserves help us ensure we can do that in the future. We talked about the budget software tonight, so this will get started as soon as possible. Also, we will be looking at doing more of the mandatory staff training that we are required to do for staff here at City Hall, and expanding our efforts with cross-training as we've been doing for many, many years to ensure that we have coverage when people are out. We do have 2 full-time, fully benefited positions this year, as we talked about just a moment ago, and we did remove that temporary accounting services person from this budget. In planning, the city's struggled a bit with getting our housing element adopted, so we did add additional funding here to ensure we can get that housing element to the finish line. We did just get an estimate to have a company that is willing to look at it, analyze it, and help us get there. So we're excited about that new opportunity and to get that requirement met by the state. We are going to digitize and codify our zoning code. This is currently in a binder, paper, again. So if you're looking for any information about what our zoning code is in the city of Canyon Lake, you have to come visit Jim. And so this is important as well, again, making business easier for those that we serve. And then we'll be looking at our general plan, specific plan, and other land use changes for future growth and opportunity in partnership with our planning department. Building and safety, we're in the midst of looking at our dock ordinance. We currently have a moratorium in place, and this is a priority of the city council. We look to also increase the educational and informational information on our website. Recently, we've looked at things like solar projects and simplifying, creating checklists, making it clearer for our community to understand how they're going to have to go through the building department process. And as part of that, it'll help us at a staff level ensure that we have all the right steps in place and we're managing the process appropriately. Also looking to do some staff training and professional development in this department. This is one of our newest, it is our newest department, and so we're still have some growing pains and learning here, and so that's a priority for our team. And as part of that, we're looking to increase interagency coordination and collaboration. For example, working with Elsinore Valley Municipal Water District, the POA, making sure everybody's on the same page in terms of what's coming into our community. Fire department, several on this list here that our chief have provided. Again, I've mentioned ARPA improvements to the fire station, getting a certified, training one of our firefighters to become a certified fire investigator, improving our response time, expanding emergency disaster preparedness programs, the department's training manual, putting all of the firefighters through live fire training, and completing the very important ISO certification process, which we are in the process currently of doing. I've combined sheriff and animal control. We will be looking at our law enforcement options overall in the coming year. As you all know, commercial cannabis business permit included, that we would be using some of those funds towards law enforcement. So once we are able to realize those funds coming in, the city council could make a determination about whether they'd like to add a community services officer, which provide a more dedicated person to our community. So this is one of the things we'll be looking at when that funding source comes through. Expanding special enforcement on Railroad Canyon Road. This means making sure people are following the laws like speeding, all other traffic-related citations on Railroad Canyon Road. As we just showed a moment ago through the fire report, we have quite a bit of accidents on that roadway. It's important to remind people to abide by the law as they're driving through our community. In addition, we've met with Animal Control, Animal Friends of the Valley. You will see a new agreement coming soon to the City Council. At this time, we will also look at updating and increasing our fees to the true cost that we are all experiencing here in the region. AFV has asked the region to update these fees appropriately, and so we'll be doing that, which will also help offset our costs for animal control services. Code enforcement, for some time, we've had the residential rental program. Our team will be looking to reach out to our local property owners, realtors, and property managers right here in the center, for example, to see if they can assist us in expanding our outreach on this program. We'll also be looking to launch renewals and new business licenses online, so you will no longer have to come into City Hall or mail in your payment. And then again, we're going to look at some of our ordinances and municipal codes associated with safety concerns in our community, make sure they're up to date, that they currently align with the needs of the community. For example, teen curfew, vandalism, graffiti, those types of municipal codes that we currently have within our municipal code. Some other notable adjustments really quickly, and I think we're going back to Terry here in just a moment. We did move utilities for the fire department, all the copy costs for the entire organization. This is printing costs, really. Fire station landscaping and maintenance costs, as well as our insurance costs to one fund. As Terry mentioned, we currently had these spread across all of our departments, and to be honest, it was creating work for staff to try to break up like where those monies were going, and the time spent on that, really, we didn't feel it was necessary from a budgeting standpoint. And so putting these all into one account makes them easier for us to manage, makes it easier for, I think, the community to really see the true picture on. But I do want to note the fire station costs are noted as fire station, so you can still easily see that those costs are associated to the fire department. Back to you, Terry. Any questions on those goals or comments?
Yeah, we moved all those costs just to make it easier to assemble them, and none of the other utility costs were in each department, so it just made sense to have it all in one central location, especially with the insurance too, so. Okay, so this is our expenditure summary by fund. So you have the general fund, which we've already gone over. Then you have the gas tax fund. That includes the operations for the gas tax, but not the updated projects. And so what we use that money for is the utilities for the irrigation. We use it for signal and sign maintenance, and we also use it for the electricity for the signals and the streetlights, and then various repairs throughout the year. The Measure A, part of that 290,000 or 452,000 is the city's portion of the HSIP grant for the planning and developing of the project. AQMD, no expenditures for a couple more years. The law enforcement grant, that's all transferred over to the general fund to offset the budget. The ARPA grant, that's what we have left to spend is 1.8 million. The way that gets recorded under GAAP purposes, we don't record it as a revenue until we spend it. So if we don't spend it, we have to give it back. And so that, what we're projecting to be unspent by the end of June 30th, 23. And then the rental fund, that's just the normal cost of operating that building. Any questions on the fund, other expenditures? And so this, the first column there is the estimated available general fund reserves, and then each other fund. So you can see general fund 5,445,000. You add in the revenues less the appropriations, we come out at 5,481,000. And you can see like the special revenue funds for the gas tax and Measure A, we almost have $3 million in restricted money for the road projects. The AQMD, you can see we have 52,000. And so when we get up to about 95,000, that's when we start spending the AQMD money. The law enforcement grants, that's usually we spend almost every dime we take in. It sometimes has a small reserve because it's hard to predict exactly what we're going to get. Then the miscellaneous, that's the ARPA, that's the 1,835,000. So,
Terry, in regards to ARPA, we're sitting on 1.8. What did we receive?
we've got it all. It was 2.3, wasn't it? Yeah, 2.3.
Do we have an allocation of where the $500,000 went?
Yeah.
The breakdown of that? I know
Yeah.
we spent, what, 360 on the station?
Corey, I think, provided an update recently.
Okay.
Yeah,
On
next
ARPA,
month.
and where we're
Yeah.
at with it then?
Yeah, I have a spreadsheet that we have that shows what's spent, what was originally budgeted, what was spent to date, and it's updated. I updated it through April, and so I'll give that to Corey. He can present
Is that
to you.
timeline on those funds? Is it 2026?
Yeah, you have to obligate it by 2024 and spend it by 2026.
Right. So that hasn't changed, right? I know the feds are, okay.
But there are, since it's revenue loss, we can
Right.
spend it on anything but debt service or pension.
Perfect.
So.
Mayor?
Okay. Mr. Yes. Mayor.
On that point, do you want to address it? The clawback of ARPA is one of the only items that I've heard as being a potential bargaining point.
Nice.
Between congressional Republicans and the White House as they look towards raising the debt ceiling for the federal government. And so I think, while I think it's certainly important that there be something to show, we did this with the ARPA money, I think that we certainly wouldn't want to show a check going back to the federal government.
Right.
So it may be something that the council wants to discuss. Do you want to call, just acknowledge that it replaces lost revenue, spend it on something, an allowable expenditure now? You'll have an offset in other general fund revenue, which you could then allocate, maybe to capital improvements or something like that.
Nicole, you want to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say, based on this this new information that I just heard today, the clawback, it would be wise for us to consider, as the city attorney mentioned, when we bring the ARPA update next month, as well as the CIP, we could easily show this transition of covering an existing cost with ARPA now to ensure we're able to get and keep that money, I should say, and then put that money into the capital improvement plan as an offset, like it was said, from the general fund, and you'll see that money right in that capital improvement plan.
Thank you, Stephen.
So when we discussed ARPA funding, we allocated funds accordingly. We already designated those funds. Do you feel that that criteria is no longer being met based upon some of the standards that they're pushing down from the feds?
Yeah, so it's going to depend on exactly what and there's no guarantee that they're going to do a clawback.
Right.
It might be incredibly unpopular
Right.
in certain areas. I think that, if they did decide to move forward with a clawback, I think that the standard they would apply is, obviously, if you've already spent it, you've already spent it. If you've contractually obligated it to be spent, so you've entered into a public works agreement, they just haven't paved the road yet or built it, but they have a contractual right to payment, they wouldn't want to impair the contract. I think that would be fine. I don't think that the feds would stop it simply because you've already earmarked it or designated
Correct.
it for a future project. I think that they would likely try to claw that money back. And again, I think it's not necessarily great policymaking. Cities like Canyon Lake have been thoughtful about how you want to spend it for the maximum benefit for the community. But it's one of these things where it could be an easy negotiation point for a political problem that's very, very far away,
Right.
but could have a very real impact here.
Absolutely.
And we have the ability to set the other money aside, so it's not touched. And so you can see by this chart, all the funds are in healthy fund balance position. And like the city manager indicated, we're going to come back with a new fund balance plan for the general fund. Is where we want to be for operations, contingencies, equipment replacement. So we want to be able to pay cash in 10 years for all our new city vehicles and city trucks and fire trucks and
Right.
equipment. So we will bring that forward with June.
What are we projecting to get? I know we kind of cleaned out the AQMD account. What are we projecting on that?
Right now, I estimate we'll have about 53,000 at the end of this fiscal year.
Okay.
We're going to get about 14,400, so we'll be at 67,000 at the end of next year.
Okay.
That's maybe get some golf carts for code enforcement. So
Or a razor.
there you go. So all our funds are in good financial play, except for the rental fund.
Right.
So we need to. Another discussion will be that debt that we have there, how to
Mhm.
pay that back, and then it also owes the general fund money, so we have to address that issue as well. So
Have you dived into that loan recently and seen where we're at?
we're at about 5.5%.
Is that a balloon?
It's a term loan. It ends, I think, in a year. So we're gonna have to refinance that loan.
Okay.
We've already paid 300,000 of it off.
Right.
And we have like 550 left. So, but it is, the term is coming up shortly.
Okay.
And it's tied to the prime rate, so it's going up. And so we were paying about 1,100 a month in interest. Now we're at about 3,800 a month in interest.
Yeah, because that's skyrocketed.
Yeah.
What's our projected revenue on that, despite the rate adjustment on the loan? What are we getting right now
On
for that?
our-
Yeah.
Our rents?
Yeah.
The one building has no tenants, and I think we're going to convert that to city use. And then the other building, we have the 3 tenants, I think, and they pay $71,000 a year. And so that debt service payment is eating up that quite a bit.
Right.
So that's another area that we're going to have to talk about.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I've got another question on the ARPA fund. Sorry, I'm kind of going back, because this is in the detail of the budget projections, but there's, under the ARPA section where we've got for budget for this year, 1.349 million, but then we show the total expenditure is at 2.3. So the 2.1 million, what is that for? So technically, we're at a shortfall for this year.
What page is that on the agenda?
It's 118.
118, okay. Okay, which
says
number
cap-
are you looking for?
So we've got, it says capital 2.1 million,
Okay.
and I can't understand what that's for, because it says see below and I don't see below.
Those numbers tied to last year's budget. So the see below is for the current year numbers, right?
Okay.
So the numbers for prior year. So it's basically the same capital improvements, city hall renovation, fire state upgrades, repairs to the building over here, and then the boat deck. And so it's basically those costs, so.
But.
And so what we have left to spend is at $1,835,000, which is city hall renovation, fire station upgrades, repairs to 31542 Kenny Lake. We haven't spent hardly any of the emergency relief grants or the business assistant grants, but I don't have a copy of the prior year's budget. But that 2.1 million would be in last year's budget.
So the shortfall is just because we haven't spent that yet from the ARPA funds? Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So
I project we'll have about $1,835,000 left at the end of this year. So,
okay.
yeah.
And then here's the fund balance history. You can see from 2017-18, revenues have gone from 5 million all the way up to almost 7.6 million. So we've increased revenues quite a bit. Assessed valuations went up. Also, we have the UUT and the EMS come in. Expenditures went from about 4.8 million, which seemed like a lot back then, all the way up to 7.5 million. And our fund balance, with the exception of 1 year, has increased. So I think in 2019-20, we had a bit of a loss, but every year it has grown. And this fund balance history, the projection there at the far column, does not include the community benefit income. And so you can see where we'll be, revenues and expenditures equal. We're still adding a little bit to our reserves this fiscal year. So any questions on these growths?
Since we're talking about revenues somewhat, a couple questions. Have we broke down, per department, what some of these revenues are generating? I know most are cost recovery, but for example, the building department, that's a new department for us here. The city council worked hard to bring that in-house. Do we have projections on what that looked like in the past when we had our contract versus now, and a projection based upon that department alone?
In the past we have, but we haven't updated since we have our own staff.
Okay,
That's
so
something we could bring to you.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I wrote down several notes in regards to just looking at a deep dive of revenues and where they're trending. I think if we can look at building department, code enforcement as well, Nicole, just because we have a residential rental program as well, so we want to see how that's looking and how that's gauging over the course. Again, this is another new program that's a new source of revenue. We're looking at events and permits. That's cost recovery, but there's going to be money lost on that. So I think we need to identify events and permits and how that looks.
We can code the revenue to the department code, and that would be easier to track.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that would be helpful when we're looking at it. And, I would like to see a standalone, and I know it says it in here, in different departments, but, how much are we operating strictly on grant funding as a standalone? So are we dependent on 5, 8, 10% on grant dollars? I know per department we have it organized out pretty well when we receive public safety grants, and we just got awarded, obviously, the project for Railroad Canyon. So I think it would be nice to look at a picture of what kind of grants the city is obtaining each year.
Yeah, we could bring that as part of the budget. We could have a separate thing.
That would be good.
Grants, especially like with the ARPA.
Yeah.
CalCops.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To look at that as a whole.
Yeah, that's not hard to do.
Cool.
And so that percentage is the percentage of fund balance to 1 year's expenditures. And most cities are happy if they have, 2/12
And so we're at 88, 89, down to 73, but it's a good reserve, so, 1 year's expenditures, so. And then here is the general fund balance projection with no community benefit revenues. So it's steadily climbing each year, a little bit smaller this year. So it gets up to 5.4 million. And then here's if we take and add and keep 60% of the projected community benefit revenues where we'll be. And so we would spend, put in the budget 40% of that revenue to spend and save 60%. And this is what the reserves would look like. So you can see we'll go up almost $1 million.
Terry, can you go back one slide?
Yeah.
The 5.4 projection, is that including gas tax, Measure A money as
No,
well?
this is strictly
This is all
general
strictly
fund.
just general fund.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
for noting that.
Strictly general fund.
What's the total number with all of our other accounts as well? Do we have that?
Yeah. It's 8.8 million.
Perfect. Thank you.
And so then this one projects spending 40% of the community benefit and saving 60% to the bottom line until we get those reserves up to where we want to be. But each time, if we set that fund balance policy, and there'll be some that are, so you have fund balance, which is unavailable, which is like a prepaid. So if I prepay insurance, it's an asset, but it's part of fund balance. You can't spend it again. So you have your prepaid, and then you have your restricted, which is your gas tax money. It's restricted by an outside agency, not by the city. And then city council can commit, and that's where would be committed funds by the city council. And it can always be changed if you have to, but you just kind of set a goal.
Just for clarification on the community benefit for a moment. So this again is related to the cannabis business permit that we have in the city of Canyon Lake. For the council, we did reach out to them to see where they are in their status of opening on June 1st, which was the original proposed opening date. They have requested a 60-day extension. And so in consideration with the city attorney and based on the appeals that we faced back when they first initially were awarded the permit, which were unexpected, it was a 3-month delay. We believe it's not unreasonable to give them that 2-month extension. However, I do want to point out that that does affect our potential revenues from the community benefit by about $200,000. And again, echoes the reason why we did not include that in this budget, because yet to know how much that money will be. But there is a one-time payment owed by June 1st of $205,000, so they have been billed accordingly for that. And those are the funds, as Terry mentioned, that have not been included in the general fund balance, so that would impact those reserves if we were able to collect that money.
And then this is kind of a schedule. So we'll bring the budget back on June 14th for adoption. So we'll bring a fund balance policy. We'll also update all the tables for salaries and benefits. Corey will provide an ARPA update. And if we wanted to amend that, we can do it then. And we'll have a draft capital improvement budget plan for you, which we'll do one each year. It'll go out 5 years. And it'll have the project, the funding sources, and the timeline.
Yeah.
And then summer of 2023, 5-year budget projections. Once this budget's adopted, I'll start working on some 5-year projections. August 2023, a strategic planning vision workshop. September 2023, that's when we find out if we get the SAFER grant. And then in December of 23, we'll bring the 22-23 audit to the council, and you can see where we ended up. And then February 24, we'll do the mid-year adjustments. Any questions on the timeline?
Any questions so far?
And any suggestions that council has, we'll incorporate into the budget.
I just want to highlight that the draft capital improvement plan is important. This is something the city hasn't had in the past, but in recent years, there's been significantly more assets that the city owns and has a responsibility to either maintain or would be interested in upgrading and improving, such as city buildings, the fire station, if we take that over, when we do own that fire station, the future of City Hall or the council chambers. And so we feel this is a really great way to not only show the council, but the community what those improvements and plans are for the future out for the next 5 years, but more importantly, to help direct staff on which ones are more of the priority for the council and the community, and we can place funding into those slots. They can be on the list and unfunded. So for example, we've had some requests for a full sound wall along Railroad Canyon. We've explored things like rubberized asphalt on Railroad Canyon Road, which would reduce noise as well through our community. So these are types of projects we can kind of dream up, for lack of a better word, put into the plan, and then strive to find the funding for, whether it's grants or from general fund excess or whatever it may be in terms of when those funding sources do present themselves.
Go ahead.
One quick question on this. What's the potential for the SAFER grant?
We're very optimistic, and so
Dollar potential.
I think it's $2 million, Chief. They will cover the cost and salary for the firefighters requested.
Yes, that's correct. The SAFER grant is for 6 positions. 2 would be on duty each day. 3 positions are engineer paramedics, and the other 3 positions are firefighter paramedics. The funding source is for 3 years, so it's all the salary and benefits for those 3 years, with the exception of overtime.
And our city attorney reminded me, and very important to note, that there are associated costs for equipment.
Of course.
For those firefighters, which we've estimated about $100,000 to $150,000. We also have discussed very carefully that if we proceed with this grant, which we do believe would be beneficial to the community, we would make it very clear in any recruitment that this is grant funded.
Correct.
And subject to funding availability in the future after those 3 years.
Terry, how do you feel about 2-year budgets?
I'm okay with the 2-year budget. You would just do a mid-year and then at the end of the year, another look back and adjust.
How does the council feel about a 2-year budget?
I see more organizations moving to 2-year budget over time. I mean, it's not like you're handcuffed into the.
No.
There's adjustments over a period of time.
Yeah.
I think it would make us think longer term, which is probably one of the better benefits of it, and also save staff time in building the budget. There's some benefits it's worth looking into.
Definitely.
Any other comments on that? I appreciate the 5-year projection. I think it's crucial that we look at where we're headed, where we've been. I'm seeing a lot of municipalities go towards the 2-year process. I know it helps with the planning, especially when we're looking at a 5-year projection. If we can commit a 2-year plan and we put our brains together and work hard, and I think it's the smart move from a budget standpoint. So I would like to have that discussion up there too on the timeline to see if that's something that the council wants to take on, but I would be in full support of that.
You definitely could. I mean, once you're developing the positions and the salaries, it's not that much harder to do a second year.
Right.
And then the other items, just based on inflation, right?
Mhm.
So you're just going to go up, so.
Absolutely.
The layout looks a little different, but.
Yeah. Any?
There you
yeah,
go.
there you go with your new software that you got coming.
But
Any other questions?
Yes,
Go
in
ahead.
general.
Yeah, I mean, so where are you at
Can
with
it
your
be in general?
Yeah, where are you at with
PowerPoint's over.
Okay. So, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so a couple different things, and they're kind of all over the place. So bear with me. Number one, we've had talks with representatives from Cal State San Marcos and talking about potentially helping to fund their satellite campus in Temecula for a lot of really good reasons that once we get to that point, we can explain. But something that I think we need to keep in mind, maybe not necessarily put in the budget right now, but I'd like to have that sort of close to top of mind for people. Just very, very general overview. The benefits of having a Cal State campus very close to us are very beneficial for our community. And the studies about people people stay where they go to college, and they're putting a satellite campus in Temecula in conjunction with MSJC, and for very specific types of positions, medical positions, nursing positions, business positions, things that are very crucial to this area. So I think that's something that we need to keep in mind and try to find some funding for. Different cities in Riverside County are helping fund this, and understanding that we're a smaller city. Our amount is probably going to be less than what Temecula is, but still think we need to be a part of that. A couple things that I'm concerned about in this budget, and if we're looking at the proposed budget and the proposed end is not really a surplus, not shortfall, but we're close.
Yes.
So with the thought that hopefully at least part of the ARPA funding won't go back, but that's finite funding.
Right.
So we've got $4 million that in 2 years we're not going to have, and that's gonna hurt. I think we need to really look at. Sorry, did you want to respond to that first?
That's why when we budgeted, we did just one-time things. We
Correct.
didn't, nothing for operations.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Okay, good, thank you. And then the other thing, and I know we've talked about this before, but I think we really need to, and that was part of what you said in the presentation, but I think we really need to look at the rental,
Yes.
the rental revenue, because there's no way there's 317 rental properties here. It's gotta be more. We've got to figure out a way to really find out and get more of the landlords involved. And I think that's something that's going to be crucial for us going forward, so we don't go backwards.
I think that's really good.
And if I may jump in regards to Cal State San Marcos, one of the things we do have as part of our community benefit agreement that both the attorney and the council was wise enough to include is a true community benefit, where there's an additional funding that the business is required to allocate toward civic organizations and nonprofits. And that funding, technically, Culture Cannabis can pay directly or give to the city to then disperse through grants or however we decide to do that in partnership with the business. And so obviously in alignment with the agreement as well. And so that could be a really good source for Cal State San Marcos once we're seeing those funding sources coming in.
And if we get a history of that revenue, we can plan it and incorporate it into the budget, so.
Does anyone else have any?
I just have comments. Just want to thank you for all your work and being on the council and looking at the budget, you realize more and more how much you are like a household. It's just kind of a large household you're running. You have unpredictable revenues at times, and you have unpredictable expenses that just come up. And we're almost kind of more of a household on a fixed income, because our availability for source of revenues far more limited than I imagined. I mean, we are very restricted in how we can obtain revenues. So I just want to say that, staying within budget and providing the level of service we'd like to provide is not easy. And we definitely want to be able to provide that level of service both in public safety and to the community as a whole. And we appreciate the council's work and the staff's work to bring that together. So just thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Welty.
And you're right. You obviously want that level of service, and to balance, we didn't have to cut the level of service, which is
Yeah.
good, so.
Mr. Terry, you got anything?
I think in the years to come, as Mayor Pro Tem had stated, revenues are very difficult for the city to generate. What are your thoughts on increasing our reserves?
That will be part of that fund balance policy. Years ago, we had almost 2.5 years worth of reserves over 1 year expenditures, and that's what got us through the recession. And so now with our new revenue sources and the new community or cannabis, so what we're going to develop is a fund balance policy where council's going to pick what level they want for operations, for contingencies, for emergencies, for equipment replacement. And so we can develop that budget and come up with a time period to fund that. So you don't have to do it 1 year, you could do it over 5 years. But definitely want to get over 1 year's reserves, because a lot of our revenues are volatile to the economy. And so Riverside County, when there's a recession and prices drop, they will lower the assessed value. But it gets back up quick once it goes the other way. But in order to weather that storm for 2 or 3 years, or in case there's an emergency, an earthquake or a fire, takes 2 to 3 years to get your money out of FEMA. So we want to set aside money for that too. And those are set by council and can only be changed by council. So, but we're going to address that issue. So.
Anything else, Mr. Terry?
I think the 5-year projection is extremely smart. Like I mentioned, I think anything we can do to increase our reserves is vital.
Yeah.
I mean, you take a look at some of these numbers, something goes sideways, we're kind of in a world of hurt.
Yeah.
I think that would be a huge priority. I also would like to ask that as we move in, as our city manager stated, the economic times that we may be looking at over the next couple of years, I think it's vital that we support local business. Some of the ideas that were discussed, Small Business Saturday, which would take place the one Saturday after Thanksgiving. In addition to that, we've also been discussing Hot Rod Fridays.
Yeah.
Anything we can do to create interest in our town center and those businesses, because they're going to be facing some tough times. They're small businesses, small revenues, and anything we can do to get our general public to shop here locally, I would like to see anything we can do to do that in this next year's budget.
Good stuff. Councilwoman Casey Castillo?
I'm in concurrence with what has been said. Councilwoman Dane and I, as well as the city manager, have kind of discussed some of the different licensing and special event permits. My goal is to make sure that we have enough of a cushion, so if we want and can be able to subsidize some of those issues in the future, if that works out for us. I would like to be able to do that. I think we all want to be able to do that. So I don't want to constrain ourselves such that we are kind of up against a hard wall where we can't make adjustments that benefit our community. But at the same time, I think my experience with this council is that we're very fiscally conservative. We don't want to get in a situation where we can't honor our contracts and pay our bills.
Yep.
I don't run my business like that. I don't think anyone else does here. And I don't want to start doing that with the city of Canyon Lake. So those are my important takeaways from this. And I think those are the areas that we need to continue our focus on.
Okay. All right. I'm going to try to make this brief, even though I got 6 pages. Okay. Big picture. I'm going to start with that. Mr. Grande, how difficult is it to find a place to rent a space in our town center to do business? And yes, I'm talking to the public, Mr. City Attorney. It's a rhetorical question. It's extremely difficult, and it's hard to find space. You can't, because the city attorney's going to yell at me. But with that said, we should not have any vacancy at all when it comes to the buildings that we own. And I know it's because we're trying to allocate and figure out what we want to do, but this has to be a big picture, #1 priority. We invested into real estate for a purpose of providing a good space for our businesses to be able to have a good working relationship with the city and our business community. We need to make sure that we are doing everything we can to get the spaces that we have available not vacant, because that's the most important thing when it comes to those. So Jennifer, I appreciate the insight too on our rental program, because we have anywhere between 600 and 800 absentee homeowners in this community out of the 4,700 homes, 4,800 homes. We're short at least 50% on that program. And for me, and I know our city manager has seen it because I've been sending some of it her way, we have several landlords that are allowing their properties just to go absolutely chaos with weeds and electrical issues, and it's more of a concern, especially now that we have our own fire department. So I think we really do need to look at the big picture when it comes to the buildings that we own, and then that residential rental program. I know that we've tried to work with the POA on obtaining who is essentially a renter or not, and I know per their CR&Rs, they're under strict guidelines, and we would have to do some legal things, and that's a touchy subject, but I still think there's opportunity there that we can possibly partner up just so we can deal with some of the issues, and I think that's got to be a big picture topic. Ones that we're not discussing that I think is really important, we got to find a way to pay for a fire station. It's 1.39 million is what we're technically under contract for, so we're going to have to find a way and how we want to pay it. Mr. Terry, Shay, sorry, what do we owe on that building where Hope is at, New Hope Church? 550, you said?
It's right around 550.
So just right there, we have $2 million of assets that we're going to have to secure, which we're not talking about. And I think that has to be a big picture item of how we're going to fund those two projects. The city attorney has brought up some, remarks in regards to looking at ARPA funding and possibly utilizing dollars in unique ways so that maybe we could look at that and have that conversation so we can allocate the funds to move forward with that. And I don't know, Terry, what do you think of that?
I've contacted several banks and entities that loan money, and I have several just waiting to compete. And so what they're recommending is a 10-year lease, which is lease financing. It's not really a
Right.
lease, it's just financing. You get a discounted rate because it's for a municipal purpose. And so you get a decent rate, you get around 3-4% financing for 10 years, and the city could well afford that.
Right.
So, but I just need to go forward and get the final quote from these
Right.
people. So I recommend a 10-year financing.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's important too. We need to have that conversation when we're looking at our projection plan on how we're going to look at these assets. I think I'm not the only one that's going to say this because Councilmember Terry mentioned it too, but for me, and I've said this to the community, it is so important that we reach 100% in our reserves. I'm a firm believer of stowing away as much as we possibly can for a rainy day, and I would love to put together a 2 or 3 year plan with this council to secure 100% reserve. So when we're replaced and whoever takes our spots can have a few years to screw it up before we lose it all. But I really think it's important that we start governing that way. And there was a time, as you said, that we had up to 2 to 3 years. At that time, we probably had 4 staff members, and now we have 28, so things have changed quite a bit. But with that said, I think it has to be a number one priority when we're looking at the financials for the future of the city. And I would love to see us have that conversation on how we're going to do that. And I want to say thank you to our city manager for not depending on money that we do not have. It is so important that we don't start playing guess games with public dollars and we're balancing a budget based upon what we know is coming in. The last thing I want to kind of briefly discuss too is this city's done a good job with the staff that we have in regards to looking for grant dollars. A lot of my colleagues in other municipalities who have larger budgets, it's easier for them to do so, but they're securing millions of dollars with their state and federal lobbyists. And I don't necessarily want to pay for a lobbyist. The city doesn't nor need that nor can really afford it. But I do want to beef up our grant program. I want to look at ways that we can partner with WRCOG and utilize their skills to make sure that we're not missing out on any dollar that we possibly can. I know that the last one that we received took a long time to get, so I think this is something that we have to make an A priority because we are going to be a city that not necessarily is going to be dependent on it, but every dollar is going to help. I think that's pretty much it on my end. I want to thank you for all the hard work that you put into this. The fact of the reality is, and I'm just going to be completely transparent because all I hear from people is that, agencies aren't being transparent with dollars. So last year we reported a $400,000 surplus, and this year we're reporting a $38,000 surplus. And it's clear as day that when we, in my mind, became a real city 5 years ago, we wanted to create a place where people felt comfortable to work, and we wanted to create a place where people felt that they were earning what they deserve. So this council made it an A priority to make the salaries and the positions here what we would call standard. And I think it's safe to say that the budget that we're looking at is seeing exactly that. And that was done through the process that we did last year. And I'm happy to report that I think we've built a great team because of that. We've seen differently regionally, and people respect what Canyon Lake has done. We're so proud to have our fire department. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. This is a big night for the city as we look to the finances for the next year. But for this city, it's difficult, and if any of you are listening out there or in the audience, you can see the numbers that we're dealing with, and it's so crucial that we make the right decisions so that we don't put us in a deep hole. So I just want to say thank you for the hard work that has been done, trying to fit all of this in our small budget, and I think we're doing the right thing. So if the marijuana funds come in, then we'll be running a surplus of close to 1.3 million, but we're not being dependent on that, so that's really good. It's good news. That's all I have. Anyone else, any other comments? So next month, you're going to bring it forward for us to pass and move on and work through it? Okay.
Yeah, next week or next month. It's later in the month, too. It's like.
Can you believe it's already June coming up?
I know. I think it's right around my birthday, so maybe we can have a cake. 66, wow. So we'll have the budget, we'll have the appropriations limit, we'll have the fund balance policy, and update the salary tables.
Okay.
And then once you adopt the budget, then we'll start working on the 5-year projections.
Perfect.
And then that, but I'd like to thank the city manager, city clerk, Mike. Mike goes through a lot to get this budget because he does all the other departments. So,
Right.
And Kayla, Corey, and did I forget anybody? Chief. Can't forget the chief.
Chief's done a great job, too.
And I make sure that I get his numbers that he gives me correct in the budget. So
That's
And
good.
I did reach out to him while he was down at the Coachella.
Yeah.
He says,
Stagecoach.
I'm at Stagecoach. What do you want? I'm like, oh, sorry. So, but he did answer. So 'cause I had to finish. I'm like, I got to finish this damn thing. So,
Yeah. Well, thank you.
But the whole staff chips in and does a tremendous job. And, you know, I email questions and they get right back to me. So but it truly is a team effort. And I think this new software is going to be something good. So,
Very helpful.
Yeah.
Perfect. This is just receive and file, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, if there's no more questions, we're going to jump right into city manager comments.
I just have one this evening. The city is looking, in partnership with their fire department, we are looking at our local hazardous mitigation plan. This is something we're required to update every 5 years, I believe. And so right now on our website, there is an item, a news item on the homepage, as well as a page itself that shows this hazardous mitigation plan, which really identifies what hazards we have in and around our community. So we're seeking comments from the community at this time. They have about a month to do so. So we'll be promoting this over the next month, and if anyone is interested in taking a look at that plan and providing feedback for staff, you can find that on our website.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you for that update. All right, moving on to council. Mr. Terry, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I would like to thank John Grande, the Chamber of Commerce, and we had a great meeting on the 3rd, I believe it was. Really the first step to showing local business how much, as a city, we support them. We had representatives from home business, representative from service business, representative, brick and mortar was an intention, but unfortunately she couldn't attend. We had 2 representatives from real estate. A lot of enthusiasm, more enthusiasm in that meeting than I had anticipated. I believe it is going to be Wednesday, June 21st. And we're going to have, that would be, yes, Wednesday, June 21st, where we're going to have representatives from each one of those types of businesses. They're going to have a panel, and other businesses are encouraged to attend, and each one of those businesses is going to assist them with how they can increase their engagement with the community through social media. And you know, when you start these types of programs, the one thing you never think of is, hey, what are we going to do? When's it going to be day one? And I did not have a day one, and that group made the decision that we get started sooner than later, and I hope we can all support them.
Love it.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Castillo?
Thank you. I wanted to say that I just congratulate yourself and the rest of the committee for the National Day of Prayer. It was a phenomenal event. I was
cool.
honored to be able to be there and just kind of be amongst our community. It was a great day, and I left really feeling that my heart was full. I'm super excited about the fire station open house. We're all going to be there. It's going to be awesome. We had one of our first community events ad hoc meeting. I'm really proud to be part of that group. We are ones who can make decisions very quickly, so we are efficient. If you have not gotten in your form to register to do Memorial Day, we are getting close. We need volunteers, and I'm sure Councilwoman Dane will talk a little bit more about that. I congratulate the city on keeping our budget in line with what our goals were. I know it was not an easy task, and you just kind of got thrown into it, Nicole, and I'm very, very impressed and grateful. Speaking for myself, since 2018, everything has revolved around the budget. Everything we've been able to accomplish, everything we want to do has been driven by that budget. So it's a big ticket item for me personally, and so I'm very grateful. And then, Jeremy gives the real estate update. I give the Little League update because my kids are all playing. Right now, the Majors River Bandits are beating Temescal Valley Mets.
Yes. Wow.
And the 50-70 team is beating the Lake Elsinore Angels. And my son Graham hit another home run, so this would be home run number 3 that I've missed sitting right here. But I'm okay with it. And that's all I have to say.
Awesome. Mayor Pro Tem Welty?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank the senior quilting group today. They presented my stepson Adam with a quilt that was absolutely wonderful. We were all able to gather around him. He's able, he serves in the military as in the Navy, and so it was great to see him get the award. They were quite a bit of work in those quilts, and we just want to say thank you. This month I attended the SCAG conference. We looked at some housing elements, we looked at some energy issues, we looked at transportation issues. So it was a good couple days down there. I'm going to steal a little bit of Councilwoman Dane's thunder, but I want you to continue on with the subject. But we went to the Mount San Jacinto College annual event there, and it was absolutely incredible. I walked into that organization and said, wow, this is a great place for the kids to go. They really have a nursing program. You can go become a licensed nurse by going there. The other thing is they've just built a brand new stadium, and they're moving their football games from San Jacinto to Menifee. So now instead of spending $2,000 to take you and your friends down to Qualcomm, you can go down to the San Jacinto for $100 and take your friends and have a great night. And no traffic, no significant parking fees. So don't forget that. But it was a wonderful experience. I walked out of that meeting overwhelmingly impressed with the potential it had to give our children a leap ahead. And so I just want to say it was a wonderful experience. Vector was talking about budget, and Leisure was talking about a big revisit. Leisure with Lake Elsinore San Jacinto watershed, which has to do with the water flow into our lake. They're talking about getting together and kind of reorganizing where they want to head, get a 5-year plan, a vision together. So we'll be working on that. I'm going to ask Nicole to kind of step up and maybe help more than most, because when you talk to Nicole about the watershed, I'm overwhelmingly impressed with her knowledge. So we'll be talking about that. So anyway, that's my report.
Thank you. Jennifer Dane. Councilwoman Dane, you are up.
I'm glad you spoke about that, because I didn't even have that on my list. The Mount MSJC new football field stadium is beautiful. If you haven't seen it, go see it if you want to. I told my husband we're for sure going to at least one game this year.
Nice.
So as we go through our months on the council, we're all on various separate committees and do different things. Last week, there was a lot going on, and one of the things that I came through last week with, and ending with the National Day of Prayer, I got to say the Pledge of Allegiance 4 times last week. And that's just not something that we do all the time, and it just makes me proud. I think we're all very proud Americans, and it makes me very proud and happy to have that opportunity. So that was kind of one of the highlights. I also attended our SCFA meeting for Animal Friends of the Valley. A reminder, they're going to do again this year in June, half off microchipping. So if you have animals that need to be microchipped, that's a good time to do it. And their goal is to have a lot of animals done before the 4th of July. So only $10 to get microchipped. Talked about it earlier, but got to attend the Student of the Year ceremonies, and it was just great. And I love every minute of doing that, and I appreciate our Students of the Year being here and staying for almost all the meeting. Want them all. That's wonderful. I also attended RCA meeting, and please join us if you haven't already signed up for Memorial Day flagging. Happy to say that as of today, we have about 60 volunteers already, which is amazing. A lot more than last year. So if you did it last year, you won't have to do as many houses. But if you haven't signed up yet, please do. If you did it last year, you know how happy people are to see you putting flags in their yard. And it's a really fun time, and great to wake up on Saturday when you're starting to go to the park hopper and see all the flags in everybody's house. So please join us if you haven't already signed up.
Awesome, good stuff. Nicole kind of stole my thunder because she already did the real estate thing, but I'm still going to do it anyways because it is my thing. It's all good. All right, year over year, median price in Canyon Lake is $705,000 in 2022, and it is $615,000 in 2023. It's a 12% decrease. Regionally, it's crazy though. The only city that is positive is Hemet, and that's because it's the cheapest to buy a house in the entire region. So good job, Mr. City Attorney. I know you represent them too, so you're doing something right out there. Very good. A couple things. Mr. Welty and myself got to hang out in the desert. We went to SCAG, and SCAG is Southern California Association of Governments, and Nicole joined us as well. It is a great opportunity to network with other cities and find out what's happening. The talk of the town was budgets, because that's what we're doing right now, and every city is doing it this month and next, trying to pass their budgets, and that's the same thing for our regional boards as well. We passed our $110 million budget at RTA, and we had a couple students come and speak at RTA, and they stayed the whole meeting, just like you are. And because they spoke, the entire board, they were complaining about not having enough routes next to the university. And it was so encouraging to see the student body come forward and voice their concerns and issues. So a voice does matter. So it's so good to see young people get involved in voicing their opinions. So that's been really good. Lastly, I just want to say thank you for those of you that joined us for our 10th annual National Day of Prayer. It was awesome. The chief and the team did a phenomenal job helping us facilitate at the fire station. I thought the venue was beautiful. It was 45 degrees, and half the people there were wearing skirts, and I feel really bad about that because it was super cold. But when Mark Terry gave his prayer, sunlight came out, and so it was a moment that we all cherished. So thank you, Councilmember Terry. I know you bring the sunlight, and then the moment he was done, boom, freezing again. So with that, I want to say thank you for sticking it out with us tonight. Our next regular city council meeting will be held on Wednesday, June 14th, and I want to adjourn the meeting in honor of Hemet City Councilwoman member Carly Meyer. She passed away. Carly was a pretty incredible woman in Hemet, and she really stood up for what she believed in, and she got a lot of respect in her community. So it was tough to hear the news of her passing. And also, I want to adjourn in memory of Riverside County Sheriff Deputy Andrew Davidson, who unfortunately lost his life off duty in a motorcycle accident. With that, thank you, everyone, and we will see you next month.